It's the 30th of the month. You open your banking app and move $500 into savings. You're 25. You feel responsible for about 10 seconds. Then a quieter thought arrives. Is this actually going to work? Or am I just moving money in a circle for the next 40 years? Here's the thing nobody tells you at 25. The number that decides when you become free isn't $500. It's 12.5%. And that single percentage, not your salary, is what quietly sets the year you stop needing a paycheck. So let's do something almost nobody does honestly on the internet. Let's take a real 25-year-old with a real $4,000 a month, run the actual arithmetic out loud, and see whether financial independence at 35 is a plan or a fantasy. No motivational speech, just the math. And then the part of the math that surprised me. Start with the month itself, because the 500 has to survive it. 4,000 a month is roughly 48,000 a year, which, after taxes in most states, lands you somewhere near $3,300 to $3,600 in the account. Let's be honest and say $3,500. Rent takes the biggest bite, and this is where the whole plan is either won or lost. Alone in a one-bedroom, you're looking at $1,200 to $1,500 in most mid-sized American cities. With one roommate, that becomes $700 or $800. That single decision, a wall shared with another human being, is worth more than every budgeting app you will ever download. Call it $850. Then the car, because most of this country still requires one. A modest used car you already own, insurance, gas, and a repair fund, $450. Groceries, cooked at home most nights, with real food in them, $350. Eating out and seeing your friends, because a plan you hate is a plan you quit, $250. Phone and internet, $80. Utilities, $120. Health insurance through work, the part they take from your check, $180. Everything else, haircuts, gifts, the shoes, the wedding you have to fly to, $300. Add it up, around $3,000, which leaves $500. Not because you're extraordinary, because you shared a wall and you cook. And here's the first thing worth knowing. According to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, the American personal saving rate has spent recent years hovering somewhere in the mid-single digits, often around 4 or 5% of income. So at 12.5%, you are already saving roughly 3 times what the average American household does. Which raises the obvious question. Is 3 times average enough to be free at 35? To answer that, you need a number, and there is a real one. In 1994, a financial planner named William Bengen published research in the Journal of Financial Planning asking a plain question. How much can you withdraw from a portfolio each year without running out of money over 30 years? He ran it against decades of real market history and landed near 4%. 4 years later, 3 professors at Trinity University, Philip Cooley, Carl Hubbard, and Daniel Walls, tested it again across different stock and bond mixes and different historical windows. Their work became known as the Trinity Study, and it's where the famous 4% rule comes from. The rule is easier than it sounds. Whatever you spend in a year, multiply it by 25. That's the pile of invested money that can, historically, pay for your life indefinitely. So do it with your life. $3,500 a month is $42,000 a year, times 25. $1,050,000. That's your freedom number. And now we can stop guessing. You're putting away $500 a month. Over 10 years, that's $60,000 of your own money. Invested in a plain, low-cost index fund earning around 7% a year after inflation. Roughly what the U.S. stock market has averaged over the long run, though never smoothly and never on schedule. That $60,000 becomes about $86,500 by your 35th birthday. $86,000 against a target of $1,050,000. To actually hit that million in 10 years, you'd need to invest a little over $6,000 a month. You earn 4. So let's say the true thing out loud. Financial independence at 35 on $4,000 a month, saving $500, is not difficult. It is arithmetically impossible. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling a course. And this is exactly where most people quit, which is a shame, because the interesting part starts here. Because the arithmetic that just crushed the dream also contains the escape route, and it has almost nothing to do with your income. In 2012, an engineer named Pete Adeney, writing as Mr. Money Mustache, published a post called "The Shockingly Simple Math Behind Early Retirement." The insight was almost offensively simple. Your working career is not determined by how much you earn. It's determined by the percentage of your take-home pay you keep. Watch why. Every dollar you don't spend does 2 jobs at once. It adds to the pile. And it shrinks the pile you need, because your target is 25 times your spending. Save 5% of your income, and the math says you're working somewhere north of 60 years. 12.5%, where you are right now, puts freedom somewhere in your late 60s or early 70s. 25% pulls it into about 32 years. 50%, and you're looking at roughly 17 years. 65% gets you there in about a decade. That's the whole secret. Not a stock pick, not crypto, a ratio. And notice something strange. Every one of those numbers is a percentage. A person earning $200,000 a year who saves 5% will be working long after a person earning $50,000 who saves half. Income buys speed. The ratio buys the destination. So on $4,000 a month, saving $500, what do you actually own at 35? $86,500. And here's how to read that number properly. Your life costs about $117 a day. So $86,500 is 742 days. 2 years. 2 full years in which nobody owns your time. Which means every single month you moved $500 out of reach. You were buying about 6 days of a future where you don't need permission. 6 days a month. That's the actual exchange rate, and it never appears on a bank statement. Now the part that genuinely surprised me. You do not have to keep saving for that money to keep working. If you never add another dollar to that $86,000 and simply leave it alone from 35 until 65, at that same long-run return, it becomes roughly $660,000. You would have quietly funded a traditional retirement by the age of 35, using 10 years of $500 transfers. There's a name for this halfway point. Coast Financial Independence. It means the machine is built and paid for. From that day on, you only need to cover this year, not the rest of your life. That's not the freedom the internet promised you. It's also the single largest reduction in fear available to a person in their 30s. And once you see that, the goal changes shape. You stop trying to win the whole game by 35 and start trying to make the machine bigger, faster, in the only 3 ways that exist. The first is the ratio, and you've already used the biggest lever available, the shared wall. Housing and transport are where almost all savings rates are won or lost, and no amount of canceled subscriptions will ever match one good decision about where you sleep and what you drive. The second is free money, and it is the only guaranteed return in finance. If your employer matches your retirement contributions, say 50 cents for every dollar you put in, that is an instant 50% return on that money before the market does anything at all. Not taking a full employer match is the most expensive, polite mistake in American personal finance. The third is the one that actually breaks the arithmetic, and there's real science behind it. The behavioral economist Richard Thaler, who later won the Nobel Prize, built a program with Shlomo Benartzi called Save More Tomorrow. The idea was to stop asking people to save more today, which hurts, and instead get them to commit in advance to saving a slice of every future raise. Across the companies that adopted it, participants' saving rates climbed from around 3.5% to roughly 13% in a few years, and almost nobody felt deprived because they never got used to the money in the first place. Apply that to you. You're 25. Over the next decade, you will get raises. If half of every raise goes straight into the machine before you ever see it, your $500 a month drifts up toward $1,500 by 35, without your lifestyle ever feeling squeezed. Run that version and you don't land on $86,000. You land near $160,000. Leave that alone until 65, and it becomes over $1.25 million with nothing else added. Same salary trajectory, same person. One habit: never let a raise reach your lifestyle first. And if you want the psychological trick that makes this stick, the researcher Hal Hirschfield at UCLA found something almost funny. When people were shown a digitally aged photograph of their own face before making a savings decision, they chose to save more. Not because they learned new math, because the stranger who gets the money suddenly looked familiar. That's what's really happening every 30th of the month. You're not being disciplined. You're being introduced to someone. So here's your real 10-year plan, and it fits in one breath. Keep the shared wall for as long as you can stand it. Take the full employer match on day one. Put the $500 somewhere boring and automatic, a low-cost, broadly diversified index fund inside a tax-advantaged account, and then stop looking at it. Bank half of every raise before it touches your life. Keep an emergency fund in cash so a broken car never becomes a sold investment. Do that, and at 35, you will not be retired. You will be something better calibrated. A person with a paid-for retirement, a 2-year runway, and the ability to quit a job that's making you unwell in a country where most people can't. That is not the dream you are sold. It's the one that's actually available, and it's worth far more than a course. It's the 30th of the month. You open your banking app and move $500 into savings. Except now you know what you just bought, not a number in an app. 6 days of a life that belongs to you. And if you keep buying 6 days a month, by 35, you'll own 2 years of them, and a retirement you've already finished paying for.